Thomas is a tank engine with 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome. He is a fussy little engine, always pulling coaches about, ready for the big engines to take on long journeys. And when the big trains come in, he pulls the empty coaches out so the big engines can rest. Thomas thinks that no other engine works as hard as he does. Thomas loved to play tricks on the other engines, especially Gordon. Gordon was the biggest and proudest engine on the railway at this time. "Wake up, lazy bones! You can't work as hard as me!" peeped Thomas. One day, Gordon got back from an express run until... "Wake up, lazy bones! You can't work as hard as me!" yelled Thomas, and he ran away. Instead of going back to sleep, Gordon thought of a way to trick Thomas. The next morning, when Thomas woke up, he couldn't start. His fireman and driver tried everything they could. Thomas's fire went out and there was nearly enough steam, and it was almost time for the express. People were waiting to hop in their coaches. At last, Thomas started to move. "Oh dear, oh dear," warned Thomas. "Hurry up," said Gordon. "Hurry up yourself," said Thomas. "Yes," said Gordon, "I will hurry up." Right before the coaches stopped, Gordon reversed onto them. "Come on in. Get in quickly," said Gordon to the passengers. Thomas would usually push the trains to help them start, but today was different. The workmen would usually uncouple Thomas from the coaches, but today he wasn't uncoupled. Gordon's chance to play a trick on Thomas had come. "You can't get away! You can't get away!" laughed the coaches. Thomas was not feeling good. His axles ached and his wheels wobbled. "I shall never be the same again," he thought. At last, the 2 engines and a derailed coach arrived at the station. Thomas felt very silly indeed. But Thomas was uncoupled from Gordon's train and he ran onto a turntable. Thomas ran onto a siding out of the way. "Well, little Thomas," said Gordon, "now you know what hard work means, don't you?" After a few minutes, Thomas went on his journey back home. Thomas has learned his lesson indeed. One morning, Thomas grumbled into the station. I spend my time pushing and pulling coaches, getting them ready for you to take on big journeys, he said. The other engines just laughed. I wish I could pull passenger trains too, said Thomas. You're too impatient, said Gordon. You're sure to leave something behind, he added. Rubbish, said Thomas. I'll show you, said Thomas. That night, Thomas and Henry were in the sheds by themselves. Henry was ill. The workmen worked hard, but he just didn't get better. The next morning, Henry felt bad as last night. Henry usually pulled the first train. Thomas had to get his coaches ready. Henry is ill, thought Thomas. Perhaps I should take his train. Thomas ran away to find Henry's coaches. Come along, Thomas said to the coaches. There's plenty of time, the coaches responded. Thomas took the coaches to the platform, and he wanted to run around in front at once. But Thomas's driver said, "Don't be impatient." Thomas waited and waited for the people to come in to the coaches. The people got in, the guard and the station master walked up and down, the porter banged the doors, and still Henry did not come. Thomas got more and more excited. The Fat Controller came to see what was the matter. The guard and the station master told the Fat Controller about Henry. Find another engine, he ordered. There's only Thomas. You'll have to do it, Thomas, said the Fat Controller. Thomas was excited. Don't be impatient, said Thomas's driver. Wait till everything is ready, said his driver again. But Thomas was just too impatient. What happened next? Nobody knows. Maybe the driver accidentally pulled the lever, or they forgot to couple Thomas to the train. But anyway, Thomas started to move. As Thomas passed the first signal box, men waved at him. They must be waving because I'm pulling a passenger train, said Thomas. Henry says it's hard to pull passenger coaches, but for me, it's very easy, he said to himself. Hurry, 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 he added. People have never seen me pull a train before. It's nice for them to wave at me. And Thomas whistled back. Peep, peep. Then Thomas came across a signal at danger. Bother, thought Thomas. Why did I have to stop? He said. What a nuisance signals are, he added. Thomas blew an angry peep peep on his whistle. Soon the signalman came out of the signal box. Hello, Thomas, he said. What are you doing here? Where are your coaches then? Said the signalman. Thomas looked behind. Why, bless me, he said, if we haven't left the coaches behind. At the station, the passengers were talking about how bad the railway was. But when the passengers saw how sad Thomas was, they quickly got in, and Thomas really pulled the train. And soon, any time the engines would see Thomas, they would say, Look, there's Thomas, who wanted to pull a passenger train but forgot all about the coaches. Thomas used to grumble in the shed at night. I'm tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world. The others didn't take much notice for Thomas, who was a little engine with a long tongue. But one night, Edward came to the shed. Edward was a kind engine and felt sorry for Thomas. I've got some trucks to take home tomorrow, he told him. If you take them instead, I'll push coaches in the yard. Thank you, said Thomas. So the next morning, they asked their drivers, and when they said yes, Thomas ran off happily to find some trucks. Now, trucks are silly and noisy. They talk loud and don't attend to what they are doing. They don't listen to their engine, and when he stops, they bump into each other screaming, Oh, 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 whatever is happening? And I'm sorry to say, they play tricks on engines who are not used to them. Edward knew all about trucks. He warned Thomas to be careful, but he was too excited to listen. The shunter fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. Thomas was happy. Come along, he puffed. All right, don't fuss, all right, don't fuss, grumbled the trucks. They clattered through stations and rumbled over bridges. Thomas whistled, peep, peep, and they rushed through the tunnel in which Henry had been shut up in. Then they came to the top of Gordon's Hill. Steady now, steady, warned the driver, and he shut off steam and began to put on the brakes. We're stopping, called Thomas. No, answered the trucks. and bumped into each other. Go on, go on! And before his driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill. Thomas was glad he got to the bottom of the hill. Oh dear, what should I do? They rattled through the station, and luckily the line was clear. They swerved into the goods yard. Ooh! Groaned Thomas as his brakes held fast and he skidded along the rails. I must stop! I must stop! And he shut his eyes tight. Ah! Yelled Thomas. When he opened his eyes, he had saw that he just stopped in front of the buffers, and there was watching him the Fat Controller. What are you doing here, Thomas? He asked sternly. I brought Edward's trucks, Thomas answered. Why did you come so fast? I didn't mean to. I was pushed, said Thomas sadly. Haven't you pulled trucks before? No. Then you a lot to learn about trucks, little Thomas. They are silly things and must be kept in their place. After pushing them about here for a few weeks, you know almost as much as Edward. Then you'll be a really useful engine. Every day, the Fat Controller came to the station to catch his train, and he always said, "Hello to Thomas." There were lots of different trucks in the yard. Different ones came in every day, and Thomas had to push and pull them into their right places. He worked hard. He knew now that he wasn't so clever as last time he had thought. Besides, the fat director had been kind to him, and he wanted to learn all about trucks so as to be a really useful engine. But on a siding by themselves were some trucks that Thomas was told he mustn't touch. There was a small coach, some flat trucks, and two queer things his driver called cranes. That's the breakdown train, said Thomas's driver. When there's an accident, the workmen get into the coach and the engine takes them quickly to help the hurt people and to clear the men and mend the line. The cranes are for lifting heavy things like engines, coaches, and trucks. One day, Thomas was in the yard when he heard an engine whistling. Help! Help! And a goods train came rushing in way too fast. The engine, a new one called James, was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire, and smoke sparks streamed out on each side. They're pushing me! They're pushing me! He panted. On, laughed the trucks, and still whistling, "Help! Help! Help!" Poor James disappeared under a bridge. "I'd like to teach those trucks a lesson," said Thomas the Tank Engine. Presently, a bell rang in the signal box, and a man came running. "James is off the line! The breakdown train! Quickly!" he shouted. So Thomas was coupled on, the workmen jumped into their coats, and they went. Thomas worked his hardest. "Hurry, hurry, hurry," he puffed, and this time he wasn't pretending to be like Gordon. He really meant it. Bother those trucks and their tricks, Thomas thought. I hope poor James isn't hurt. They found James and the trucks at a bend in the line. The brake van and the last few trucks were on the rails, but the front ones were piled in a heap. James was in a field with a cow looking at him, and his driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It wasn't your fault. It was those wooden brakes they gave you. We always said they were no good." Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside, and Thomas pulled the unheard trucks out of the way. "Oh dear," they groaned. Serves you right, puffed Thomas crossly. When the men put other trucks on the line, he pulled them away too. He was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards all the afternoon. "This'll teach you a lesson, he told the trucks. Yes, it will, in a sad, groany, creaky sort of voice, said the trucks. They left the broken trucks and mended the line. Then, with 2 cranes, the breakdown train put James back on track. James tried to move, but he couldn't, so Thomas helped him back to the shed. The Fat Controller was waiting anxiously for them. "Well, Thomas," he said, kindly, "I've heard all about it, and I'm pleased with you. You're a really useful engine. James shall have a proper brakes and a new coat of paint, and you shall have a branch line all to yourself." "Oh, sir," said Thomas happily. Now Thomas is happy as he can be. Thomas now has a branch line all to himself, and he puffs proudly backwards and forwards with 2 coaches all day. He is never lonely, 'cause there is always some engine to talk at the junction. Edward and Henry stop quite often and tell him the news. Gordon is always in a hurry and does not stop, but he never forgets to whistle to little Thomas, and Thomas always whistles peep peep in return. The end.